Okay, so get this. Are you ready for a deep dive into like a real UFO mystery?
Oh, yeah. Hit me with it.
We're talking Mexico City, 1975, a case that'll make you question like everything you thought you knew about, well, the skies above us.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We've got firsthand accounts, we have official reports, even NASA scratching their heads on this one.
Wow. Okay, so what's the story? What makes this case so unique?
Well, the thing is, it's not just someone saying they saw like a weird light in the sky.
Right, right.
There's actual evidence backing it up, and that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
It all starts with this young pilot, Carlos de los Santos. Picture this. May 3rd, 1975. Carlos is 20 years old, flying a small four-seater plane back to Mexico City from Lázaro Cárdenas.
Okay.
So a routine flight,
Yeah.
until out of nowhere, a UFO appears right beside his plane.
Whoa, hold on.
Not just a quick flash either. This thing was flying alongside him.
No way. So what did it look like?
Well, Carlos described it as like a gray-white oblong, about 4 meters long, which is a bit shorter than his plane. And get this. It seemed to have like a glass front section, so he had a pretty clear view of it as it kept pace with him.
So this wasn't just some like blurry light in the distance. He's seeing a structured object right next to him.
Exactly. And as if that wasn't enough, things escalate pretty quickly.
Oh, no.
2 more UFOs show up.
What?
Yeah, one on the other side of his plane, and then a third one comes from the front and positions itself right underneath his plane.
You're kidding me? 3 UFOs.
3 UFOs surrounding his plane. It's not random.
That sounds almost like some kind of coordinated action.
Right. And then just as these UFOs appear, Carlos loses control of the plane.
Oh, God.
The plane shoots upward to 4,500 meters, then boom, it goes into this terrifying free fall.
I can't even imagine the panic he must have felt.
And then as suddenly as it started, the 2 UFOs on either side of his plane disappear.
Wait, so they just vanished?
Yeah, poof, gone. Almost at the exact same time, Carlos regains control of his plane. Talk about a close call.
Wow, what a story.
He manages to make an emergency landing back in Mexico City, gets back on the ground, and you know what the first thing he does is?
What?
Jumps out of the plane and runs.
I guess I would too after something like that.
So naturally, the authorities are a bit skeptical, right?
Yeah, I can imagine.
They investigate, run tests on Carlos for drugs or alcohol, anything that could explain this.
Right.
Clean. Nothing. And then the radar data comes in, and you won't believe this.
Okay, lay it on me.
The radar data, it corroborated Carlos's story. They picked up an unidentified object moving in ways no known aircraft could.
So there's actual radar data backing up his claims.
Oh, yeah. We're not just talking about some blip on a screen either. This object was tracked, moving in tandem with Carlos's plane, and then it makes this impossibly sharp turn, like a turn that baffled every expert who looked at it.
Hold on, so we're talking about technology that could not only keep up with this tiny plane, but also maneuver in ways that we can't even comprehend.
That's exactly it.
Mind-blowing.
It really makes you wonder, what was their goal? Were they just watching, or was there something more to their interest in Carlos and his plane?
It's a question that still hangs over this whole case.
And that mystery only gets deeper because just days after this whole encounter, Carlos has another unsettling experience. So we've got this young pilot, this crazy UFO encounter, and then things take an even stranger turn.
Even stranger. How is that even possible?
Just days after this whole UFO thing, Carlos has another encounter.
Okay, I need to hear this.
He's driving along, minding his own business, when this black car pulls him over.
Oh no, this doesn't sound good.
Out step these guys, all in black suits, sunglasses, the whole 9 yards, and they tell Carlos to keep quiet about what he saw.
Seriously, like straight out of a movie.
It's like you can't make this stuff up, right? You have this crazy UFO event radar data backing you up, and then you've got men in black showing up.
Classic intimidation tactic.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder who those guys were and what they knew.
Right, and why they were so keen on keeping this whole thing under wraps.
So did it work? Did Carlos stay silent?
He did for a long time. It wasn't until 2010, 30 years later, that he finally shared his story publicly.
Wow, 30 years. That's a long time to keep something like that bottled up, especially when he had evidence to back him up.
I know, right? What do you think finally made him decide to speak out after all those years?
Hard to say for sure, but maybe it was a sense of relief that came with time, or maybe he just felt a responsibility to share his experience.
Whatever the reason, his testimony definitely added another layer to this whole case. So let's shift gears for a moment and talk about UFO classifications.
Okay, sounds good.
We hear about close encounters all the time, but there's actually a system for categorizing these events.
Oh, right, I've heard of that. The Hynek scale, right?
Exactly. It ranges from simple sightings all the way to full-on alien contact.
So like levels of interaction, basically.
Yeah, each category kind of ramps up the level of interaction with UFOs or even their occupants.
So where would you place Carlos's experience on this scale?
Well, even with how close he got to those UFOs, it's still considered a close encounter of the first kind, meaning he saw the UFO, but there was no physical contact or evidence left behind.
That makes sense. But even within the first kind category, there's a whole range of experience,
Well,
I
yes,
think.
yeah, definitely. Some people might just see lights in the distance, but
Mhm.
then you have cases like Carlos's, where they're seeing a defined object up close doing things that our technology just can't do.
Right, right. So what about the other categories? What would a second or third kind encounter look like?
Well, a second kind encounter would involve something being left behind, like physical traces of the UFO,
Hmm.
burn marks, radiation, maybe even pieces of the craft itself.
Okay, and a third kind.
That's where things get really interesting. That's when we're talking about clear sightings of alien beings.
Oh, wow. So actually seeing an extraterrestrial.
Exactly. Now, what about those stories we hear about people being abducted by aliens? Where do those fit in?
That would be the fourth kind. Alien abductions. Reports of individuals being taken aboard a UFO, sometimes for examinations or other reasons.
And then you have the fifth kind, which is where communication comes into play. People claiming they've made contact or even have ongoing dialogue with extraterrestrials.
So it's basically going from observing UFOs to actually interacting with.
Right. It's pretty fascinating, but also a little creepy, to be honest.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Is there any hard evidence for these higher level encounters, or is it mostly based on personal testimony?
That's the tricky part. While there are tons of reports of fourth, fifth, even higher level encounters, solid proof is hard to come by.
Right. It's mostly relying on what people say they experienced,
Yeah.
which makes it hard to differentiate between what's real and what might be imagination or even just psychological factors.
Okay, so let's circle back to Mexico City for a minute. Remember that volcano we talked about earlier?
The one with all the UFO sightings.
The one and only, Popocatépetl.
Right. That's the active volcano near Mexico City that seems to attract a lot of UFO activity.
It's become pretty notorious for it. So naturally, there are a lot of theories floating around about why this particular volcano is such a hotspot for UFO sightings.
Well, it's not like aliens are sending us postcards explaining their motives, right?
Huh. Right. So we're left with theories and speculation. What are some of the prevailing ideas?
Well, some people believe that UFOs might be harnessing geothermal energy from the volcano.
Like they're using the volcano as a giant energy source.
Yeah, almost like a cosmic gas station.
I like that cosmic gas station.
Then there's the idea that the volcano could be a secret entrance to an underground base. Like imagine an alien civilization hidden right beneath our feet, using the volcano as their hidden doorway.
Now that's a wild thought.
Right. It's all speculation, but it's fun to think about the possibilities.
So are we thinking there could be a connection between this volcano and Carlos's encounter back in 75?
Well, it's interesting that Carlos's encounter happened relatively close to Popocatépetl. So some people have suggested that the UFOs he saw might have been connected to the volcano in some way.
It definitely adds another layer to this mystery. But why is this particular volcano such a UFO magnet?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's not just locals reporting these sightings either. We're talking multiple media outlets setting up cameras and capturing footage of UFOs seemingly going in and out of the volcano.
Wow. And we're not talking about blurry, shaky cam footage either, right?
Nope. Some of this footage is incredibly clear and detailed.
So what do you think they could be doing in there?
Your guess is as good as mine, but that's where things get really speculative. Like I said, some believe they might be utilizing the volcano's geothermal energy. Others think they could be using it as a portal, a gateway to another dimension, or even another part of the universe.
Okay, now we're getting into some serious science fiction territory.
I know, right? But it's definitely intriguing. Who knows, maybe one day we'll have some concrete answers.
Until then, we're left with the mystery and all these tantalizing possibilities. So we've got Carlos, a pilot who has this crazy close encounter with multiple UFOs. We have radar data backing up his claims. We've got NASA experts baffled by the technology. Then we've got Men in Black warning Carlos to keep quiet. And all of this is happening near a volcano that's known for its own UFO activity.
It's like all the pieces are there, but we're still missing a few to complete the puzzle.
It really does feel like we're missing a few pieces to this puzzle.
It's a case with all the classic elements of a UFO encounter, right?
Yeah.
But it goes beyond anecdotes. You've got official documentation and analysis from experts who can't explain what they're seeing. It really makes you reconsider what we think we know about, what might be out there.
Let's rewind for a second and try to piece together what we've got. We have Carlos de los Santos, our young pilot, who has this unbelievably close encounter with not one, but 3 UFOs.
And remember, it's not just him saying he saw something strange. We have the radar data from multiple sources confirming that at least one of these objects was there and was moving in ways that seem impossible.
And those NASA experts who analyzed the data, their conclusion was that the technology those UFOs were using was way beyond anything we had back in 1975.
Right, this wasn't some weather balloon or a misidentified aircraft. This was something else entirely.
Then you've got the whole Men in Black showing up, warning Carlos to keep quiet.
Yeah, that adds a whole other layer of intrigue to this whole thing. Who were those guys? What do they know? And why were they so insistent on keeping it all a secret?
And to top it all off, this whole thing takes place near a volcano that's like a UFO hotspot. Popocatépetl with all those theories about energy harvesting and maybe even a secret alien base.
It's like all roads lead back to that volcano.
So what does it all mean? Does Carlos's encounter suggest that we are being visited by beings with technology that's far more advanced than ours?
Well, it definitely opens up that possibility. But if that's the case, then what are their intentions? Are they just curious about us and our planet, or is there something more to it? Something we haven't figured out yet?
Here's something to think about. We tend to imagine UFOs and aliens as these hostile forces. But what if, in this case, they were actually benevolent observers? What if they were just watching out for us?
It's an interesting thought. Their focus on the volcano, which could be unstable, might suggest that they're actually concerned about our planet's well-being. Maybe they were trying to prevent some kind of catastrophic eruption that could affect the whole planet.
It's crazy to think about, but it's also kind of reassuring in a way. We tend to fear the unknown, but what if these encounters, as strange and as unexplained as they are signs that we're not alone in this vast universe? What if there are others out there who are just as curious about us as we are about them?
The idea of extraterrestrial life has always fascinated humans, and cases like Carlos's, with all these compelling details and hints of technology beyond our comprehension, just fuel that fascination. And they leave us with more questions than answers.
I think that's what I love about these kinds of mysteries. The universe is full of them, and every new discovery, every new encounter just pushes us to expand our understanding of what's possible. So I guess what I'm saying is keep looking up, keep asking questions, and who knows what you might discover.
Well said. There's a whole universe out there waiting to be explored.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the 1975 Mexico City UFO encounter. We'll be back next week with another fascinating case that's sure to make you question everything you thought you knew. Until then, keep those eyes on the skies and stay curious.